Hi, my name's Chris Candy, and this is the Never Not Run podcast. Or no.
Or do the NNR for.
This is the Never Not Run podcast. I'm your host, Chris Candy.
And I'm Mark Nieto.
I always say, and we're back when we start the podcast.
That's fine. I like it. I don't mind.
Well, good, because you're going to start it from there. This is episode 16 of the Never Not Run pod. Mark, what the hell is going on, brah?
Things are good. You know, I'm just really, really excited for today's episode because if you listened back to our episode at the LA Marathon Expo, we ran into this person, John Radich, and we have been so excited to finally get him on one of our episodes.
Yeah, I remember we were doing that episode and Mark kind of honed in on someone wearing a Badwater shirt, and John was also wearing a Badwater belt buckle too. And for those who are listening, proud. Yeah, the Badwater belt buckle is very infamous in regards to its design. It's literally just a skull that looks like it's just been dehydrated from thirst, wearing like a runner's hat, and they're just so badass looking. And so, you know, obviously, if you've listened to the pod, you know that Mark and I are just, you know, find that run and race really interesting, and anyone who completes it is just a major badass in our books.
Yeah, we were just drawn to the buckle, and he was so friendly and open with us from the get-go that it just seemed like, of course, we had to have him on one day. And he was so gracious to talk with us and go over all of his experiences out there and his history with running, including this crazy run where he went across the US. But I don't know. I don't want to give away too much. I'll let John tell his story. But yeah, I mean, this guy is something that we all kind of aspire to because he's been doing this for a long time. I think what he mentioned, he did his first ultra race in 1979 around the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. And he goes into detail on how to do these races, how to recover from these races, how to properly prep for them. You know, this is a really informative episode for people who are just curious about the world of ultra and want to actually listen to somebody who's competed and completed some of the most dangerous, badass races that exist on planet Earth. And they're all coming from the voice of one of the kindest, most humble people I've ever interviewed and come across in the running community.
Again, it gives you a really nice perspective on what makes the sport special and just the amazing people that you come across once you dive into it.
Well, gear up on some electrolytes, sit back with your favorite gel pack, because this is episode 16 of the Never Not Run pod with John Radich.
All right, so we are back, episode 16 of the Never Not Run podcast.
We are here. We're all in different parts of the world, but we're coming together to talk to someone we met by chance at the LA Marathon bib pickup. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to introduce John Radich.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning, John?
Oh, great. I'm here in San Gabriel Valley. I'm out in Monrovia, California. Going to be another hot day out here, and I'm looking forward to the interview.
Yeah, I know. It's been so hot down in Los Angeles. This heat wave has just been brutal, and I know we're going to be getting into talking about the heat later on in the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Heat's definitely, that's a subject we'll be talking about. Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's just get right into it. So, you know, John, you know, where are you from in the world? And could you catch us up about that and how you got into running?
Oh, yeah. Good question. Okay. Well, I am, believe it or not, I live in Monrovia and I was born in Monrovia.
Wow.
So it's a small, I'm proud to say that. It's a nice community. It's gone through a lot of changes, and it's people that have, and our trails are really close by. We have some really good places to run. Unfortunately, we've had some fires, and one of our favorite places was Chantry Flats and Monrovia Canyon right now are closed. but hopefully they'll reopen maybe in the fall due to the reconstruction of the trails because of the fires we had last summer.
Right.
But running is well. That's a good question too. I got to go way back. I was running in middle school, junior high. We had a little it wasn't actually an official cross country team, but we had a little running team. We did relay races. And junior high, I was running and playing. I played football, basketball, and then when I got into high school, I got into cross country running. And I was on the basketball team too, but I wasn't very good at. Believe it or not, running in basketball I wasn't a natural athlete at that time, but I loved the sport, especially running. So
right,
it goes. Yeah, so you can say I've been running a long time. I guess that's fair to say.
And so, when did you start to dive into these longer distance races? Do you remember? And also, when did you first hear about Badwater?
Oh, okay. Okay. I started running ultras. I'm kind of a dinosaur. I go way back. I think I did my first ultra in 1979. It was a 30-mile race. Up, believe it or not, no, it was a 50-mile run in the Rose Bowl. And not in the Rose Bowl, but we ran the perimeter of the Rose Bowl, and we did another loop. The race director at that time, it was like you did 10 laps, and it equaled, after you were done with the 10th lap, it was 50 miles. And that was my introduction to ultra running. And I just said, hey, I think I got more endurance here. I could do better versus running the 10K or the marathon race, which I didn't really have the leg speed. But Badwater, then I just continued on with ultras. I've done like the Western States is a well-known race. I've done that. Wow. I've done that 3 times.
Wow.
I've done the Angeles Crest.
Wow.
Yeah, Western States that was my first 100-mile run, and that is absolutely an incredible event. It's still considered one of the crown jewels of the 100-mile races for all its history. And
explain that race a little bit. I'm really curious about that one specifically.
Well, let's see. You begin at Squaw Valley, and then you finish in Auburn, and you're running through the Sierra Nevada mountain range there, and it's quite an event. And then you finish in the high school there, right in Auburn. You do your last lap on a track.
Wow.
It's a very challenging run. It's unbelievable. It's just, the runners are amazing. The crew members that come out to help are amazing. And that's a race I'll never forget. That was my first 100-miler. And I can still remember running on the trails and the checkpoints and the people, the runners. Unbelievable event. And talk to any ultra runner that's run Western States, and they have their own feelings and stories about it. So it's an amazing run. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a dream race for me. I would love to do that one day. I think I'm working my way up there.
Nice.
But what were those early days like? When you were doing these ultra races, you said you started it, was it 79? And how many people were doing it with you? Did the racers look like? I mean, were people just, were these?
Did we wear shoes or what? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, what was the were you just using regular, in sweatsuits, or, what was the kind of atmosphere like back then?
Good. That's a great question. Okay. The technology, this is the most amazing, one of the most amazing things about our sport in ultra running, and, even in cycling, hiking, the equipment has triathlons, the equipment, the advancement of equipment. Back then, everything was a lot heavier. LED lights did not exist. Headlamps. If you did wear a headlamp, you had like D batteries, and they were strain your neck muscle. You end up getting a migraine. And I remember when I did Western States, I carried a flashlight that had 4D cells.
Wow.
It was made by Everready. It was a long line. I held on to that light for many years. I wish I still had it. But it was battery, but it was a halogen light, not LED. But that's what we used back then. And then the water bottles. There were fanny packs coming out, but some runners would make their own water bottles out of Carol, the old Carol syrup bottles. I knew runners that would run with those. Or you'd get a Coke bottle or plastic bottle, and you would you would carry. But they did have water bottles then. It wasn't like totally 19th century or something. But
right.
But the equipment absolutely isn't. The shoes, the socks, the running gear. Absolutely, it's amazing how the technology has improved.
Yeah, I'm so interested in that because it was kind of leading into what my thought process was now. Like, Mark and I are really into that one documentary about the Badwater you could find on YouTube about Akos Konya, and he talks a lot about prepping for Badwater, and there's this footage of him, wearing multiple layers of clothing and going out on training runs to, get the heat acclimation correct for his long runs out there. And then when he shows up on the scene, he's wearing this like super slick all white suit. And I found it so interesting that he wore this like pantsuit and like long white, basically a long t-shirt. And he said he always stayed cool.
Yes, sir. No, I'm sorry. Is this Dean Karnarsis you're talking about?
Akos Konya, are you familiar with him?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I know him, and I knew his girlfriend at the time. And Akos is a good guy.
Mark sent me that video years ago when a little backstory. Mark and I kind of got into long distance running together as friends, and we went to college together and have gone on a lot of journeys. Yeah, and this documentary we found was kind of infamous within our group of friends because it just really like showed the spirit of Badwater and endurance racing, especially ultra marathons. And so, also Mark and I are kind of gearheads. So we found like his kit very like awesome to say the least. And that brings me to my question for you, John. Like, how are you training for this extreme heat? And you're talking about the history of gear coming from where it was many years ago. Like, what are you wearing now? What is kind of junk and not needed? And what do you think is the most dire important stuff currently for doing something like a Badwater or Western States?
Okay. Again, you guys are asking really brilliant questions. Okay. For me, one of the biggest changes when I do Badwater, and I've had shoes are always a major. Okay. What kind of shoes are you going to wear? And I can mention brand names, and I think with all fairness, all the shoes that I wore were good. However, with the attack, then when Hoka, you're familiar with the Hoka shoe?
Oh yeah, we are.
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely. They kind of really changed the market as far as cushioning. I know it's a little bit higher drop, and some runners didn't get. It took a while for me to get used to that. But as far as running Badwater, my go-to shoes are now Hoka because of the cushion. But that's just my preference.
Right.
There are runners that will run in Brooks or New Balance or Nike, but Hoka seems to be I noticed one of the most popular shoes over the last 5 years at Badwater. And the shoes have just come a long way. I mean, trail shoes are more technical. They've made them lighter. If you're a neutral runner, or if you need more support, if you pronate, supinate, they have a shoe just about for every type of foot.
Right.
So it's amazing the shoes that are out there, and I haven't tried them all. And I know there's a lot of. I want to experiment and test some other shoes out, but shoes is a major factor. And then clothing. I don't. When I ran my first Badwater, I recall that was in '95, and I didn't wear any. I had the basic nylon shirt, but I did wear protective clothing in the heat.
Right.
The white suit. The reason behind that is I'll be real fast. The radiation from the sun gets so hot on your skin, and it just drains you. It just weakens you and it tires you out. Now, some runners can go all through the desert without. Well, they have to wear a hat. Majority of them, I've seen a few people. I don't know what they were thinking, but you have to have a hat, sun protection on your arms, sunblock. But the white suit for me always worked good. Only in the middle of the heat. Then once it got cooler, you take the thing off. But it was, and you do run. I felt it never affected my running. It kept me cooler. And one thing you don't want to do when you're running a race such as Badwater, you don't want to get sunburned.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to get all that radiation. It'll wipe you out. And I've seen runners get destroyed by that and not finish. I've seen it almost every year. I see someone they're just too much heat on their skin. But it seems to be more and more runners are becoming aware of it, and they protect themselves, and which is a good thing, because the sun out there is brutal and it can really rip you up. So I wear the white suit during the middle of the race during the heat.
Okay, so that got me to think about, the day of running Badwater and the different temperatures you're dealing with. How could you explain it to somebody who's never heard about Badwater, how to prepare for it? Or if you were to stumble upon someone who was just there, and had no idea what people are up to, how would you explain what the race is and how best to complete it?
Well, okay, I'll tell you, Badwater 135 is, and I'll mention the race director. He's a personal friend of mine, and he's amazing. He's the one, he's running the race and puts on an incredible job, and that's Chris Kosman. And it is the world's toughest foot race. And many will agree to that. There's other races out there that are very, very challenging too. So I want to make sure that's understood also. But for me, even though I'm from Southern California, I always respect that race. Well, you know what? I'm going to go heat train. Now, if I can't get out to Death Valley, which I've always liked to run part of the course, maybe I'll go out with a friend and he'll crew me or she for 2 days. And I'm getting maybe 72 miles of running that weekend. Maybe I've gone maybe as high as 90 miles that weekend and call it a day. And that's good heat training. Now, if I can't go to Death Valley and Badwater and run part of the course, I will go to Palm Springs. I'm only, less than 2 hours from Palm Springs. Now, is that Death Valley? No, but it can get hot. And any race, I would tell anybody, you have to practice. You have to get used to the heat. If you're not a heat runner, then your body will tell you this isn't something you want to do. It's not an endurance race for you. The heat, not everyone can tolerate the heat, but there is preparation. You have to understand the balance of your electrolytes, your drinks, really taking care of yourself, proper shoes, and getting acclimated to the heat is a key thing. And I'll even do sauna training. I'll go to the gym, and 24-hour fitness is nearby me, and I'll sit in the sauna. Now, I don't sit in the sauna for hours. I'll go 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the most. I do have water. I do have my salt and potassium, and I don't do anything like crazy when I'll take a break, take a cool shower, and maybe I'll do 2 or 3 times, and that's it.
Right.
But I don't do nothing over 15, 20 minutes, because I consider that. I know some runners will ride a bicycle, jog. That's fine, but I like to do it in intervals, and that acclimates your metabolism. Your body gets used to the heat. Now, that doesn't substitute running in the heat, but it helps a little bit. And there are runners that live in Switzerland or from Germany, European colder climates, and they can't run. They don't have the heat that we do. Though, climate change is affecting everybody now, but so the sauna helps, but still there's no substitute than, practicing in the heat. But if you can't train in the heat, then there's other methods. You know, of course, you have to run your mileage and condition your body. And I've heard of one runner. He was a friend of mine from Switzerland, and he asked me about training, and I just said, you know, I gave him the sauna information, and then he wrote me a letter or sent me an email. And he said he's got a stationary or a treadmill, and he hooked it up to his dryer, the dryer for the clothes, and, he put the hose, and he just, I don't know, it was just simple engineering thing, and he put the hose taped it to the handles of his treadmill, and so he had hot air blowing on him. And I thought, oh my God! And you know, he did pretty darn well. He came out to Badwater and he finished, and that was pretty cool, pretty awesome ingenuity.
Wow.
But you have to train in the heat, and I caution, you got to be careful when you're running in the desert. But you know, there's people that really adapt to it too. You might think, well, I can't handle it. You get out there and practice, and you can adapt to it, but you have to really want to do a race like that, because it is very, very difficult. It's not an easy race to do. Definitely not.
Yeah. One question I had was how you deal with the difficult moments in the race. So, what's your method for getting through those low points? Is it, do you go to a certain kind of nutrition, or are you, do you rely on some kind of mantra or something else? Yeah. What do you do there?
Excellent question. Okay. Cause every runner, we call them bad patches. That's been a term we've coined for many years. So you hit a low point or a bad patch. We like to say bad patches, and most runners, you'll have those moments. You might have cramping. There's mental. You have your highs and lows. It's like your peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. And you're going to go through really low points, and then you go through your high points. It's an emotional roller coaster sometimes. But what you do, what I find, if I'm really hitting a low point, then I'm always consulting. Okay, how are my electrolytes? Am I eating enough? What's going on? Because sometimes you can have an imbalance of electrolytes, and you can really set yourself up for that. You can really drop yourself. Your body and mind are going to go, whoa, you're going to bonk out there. So that's one thing I look at. But you hit a low point. How do I say this? Well, simply, I have a firm belief it's going to pass. It's turning on now. It's going to eventually, you're going to blow through it, but you just have to hang in there with it, no matter how hard it is. If you have to slow your pace down, maybe you have to walk a little bit and get your stride back in, but you just have to really be mentally tough and just say, hey, I'm going to get through this. And lo and behold, you do. And many runners will tell you that, cyclists, triathletes, you just stick with it, and it's going to pass. As long as you're not, if you've got an injury or something, then that changes everything. But if you're just going through an emotional, mental roller coaster right now, well, you can get through that, but you just have to really work with it and just believe, hey, yeah, this is going to pass. And I've had situations where it was just, oh my God, this is horrible for, or you can't keep awake. You're trying to keep from running off the highway. You've been running for 40 hours straight. Or practically 40 hours. And so your mind, it's like mind, body, spirit, and your mind has to be really tough, your spirit, and you have to really know your body. So that's my take on it. But it will pass. It will pass. If you stick with it, you'll have a bad patch. And I swear to you guys, you feel once you blow through that and you go, hey, wait a minute, I got my second win now. Hey, look at that. I'm more than halfway into Badwater now. I'm going to make it. I'm 30 miles from the finish on 15 miles. You just perseverance and knowing you can do it, and all the bad patches will pass. That's, not to repeat myself, but they will, if you hang in there with them, they will pass.
Yeah. On that note, I was hoping you could remind us of how many times you've been out there, how many times you've raced. And I was wondering if you had any specific moments that you'd be able to share with us, any moments that kind of stick out to you, because when we ran into you at the bib pickup for the LA Marathon, you did mention that you had some pretty wild stories from some of these longer races.
The psychedelic experiences.
Absolutely. The thing about Badwater is you don't sleep much because you're running against the clock. Unless you're an extremely fast runner, then you could maybe take, even a fast runner isn't going to break that long because he's running for time and a place he wants to get on the podium. And so what happens is you're with the sleep, not being able to, you're running like 30, 40 hours without sleep. So things will happen. You'll have hallucinations. I've had many good ones. You start to weave up and down. You're weaving, you're seeing things, you're hearing noises. You're going, what is that? You're seeing sticks in the road and you think they're rattlesnakes. Or I've had the desert mice cross the highway. And I had a similar Badwater runner say the same thing. It was a woman Badwater runner, very good. She goes, I thought they were talking to me, John. They were laughing at me. Why are you running Badwater? Because I go, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. Then I've heard of people seeing dragons out there and
dragons,
different objects moving around, and they couldn't figure out. But things happen when you don't have enough sleep. The mind starts to manifest weird things that aren't really there. And I've had that. And let's see, one experience. So I will share this with you. And this is an example of what happens when you don't drink enough liquids. And my first year at Badwater, I was running it was a great race. I was doing very well, and it was up in the 40-mile mark. I noticed I was starting to slow down, and my crew member, very good crew, and he was more of a football. He had worked with football players. He didn't know much about running, but yet he knew about staying hydrated and keeping the electrolytes. And I think it was Gatorade we were drinking back then. That was a popular drink, and salt and potassium. And I got to and I started to really feel bad and dizzy. And a family from Holland stops and they take pictures because a lot of European tourists come to Death Valley and they photograph. They see people running and they're going, "Why? What are you doing?" So this Dutch family, I come up to the van and my head is spinning. I'm just, and it's a mother, father, 2 children, and they want to pose a picture with me. They want to take a picture, and absolutely, I'm not going to say no to that. But I'm just hanging on. I'm just saying, I can't pass out in front of these kids. I'm just hanging on. I'm going, okay. I swear to you guys, it's a true story. And I was just saying, oh, please don't let me do anything. I don't want to traumatize the kids or even the family.
Sure.
And I got through the photograph. They thanked me. They drove off. And as soon as they were out of sight, I fell. I collapsed in the dirt. And my Bill, true story. Bill picked, got me into the van, took me back to the motel, and luckily we had a room. He put ice on my stomach, gave me, got my salt, and I was out of the race for about 5 hours. I couldn't run. The race director at the time, it wasn't Chris Kosman, it was another race director, early race director, and he thought oh, John Radich, he's done. He's not in the race anymore because I wasn't making the checkpoints. So anyway, long story short, I got back in and I was able to finish that run thanks to my crew. But the lesson I learned is I wasn't drinking enough. My hydration was off. And I was running a real good race. I was doing very, very well. I was maybe in the top 7 at that time, 7th or 8th runner in the race.
Wow.
And so you have to really monitor your drinks, that's where your crew, but I was able to finish. And that was one of my proudest moments ever, because I thought, at first I thought, well, man, Badwater is over. And my crew member, Bill, he just said, John, we're going to get you back out there. We'll get you back out there. And he got my core temperature down. I got my salt, my potassium, my electrolytes got, and then the cramps went away. And I got out there and I was able to run. I didn't have to walk. I walked a little bit in the beginning, make sure I was okay. Then I just got into running mode. And now, was I super fast? No, but I did finish. But I was behind. And I was trying to make up time. But there are amazing stories. There's much more incredible stories than that. But that was mine. And you just have to really respect the heat. You have to know your body. You have to understand the balance of, drinking, you're taking your electrolytes religiously, and not like every 30 minutes, making sure your water bottle is full. Yeah. So there's a lot of technology involved in that end.
What does the temperature your body get to when it's, in that condition? You were mentioning it got lowered. Are you running a fever? Do you know those numbers?
No, wow. No, I'm not a doctor. That's a good question. I just passed out.
Wow.
I just passed out in the dirt. And then Death Valley is really kicking my butt. I pass out and there's a dust storm and the dust is blowing in my face and I'm going, but Bill, I swallowed some dirt and dust, but Bill picks me up and gets me in the van. I go, okay. It's, she was really beating up on me. But that question, I don't know. The human body is very unique, and I don't think I was, I don't know how to answer that question, but I don't think I had a fever.
Sure.
But my core temperature, it wasn't heat stroke. It was heat exhaustion. Right. You get heat stroke, and that's it. All bets are off. You're in an emergency hospital. But no, I had heat exhaustion. It was like, and we caught it in time. And I was able to, and I had enough time on the clock due to the fact that I was running fast. I had a cushion of time. So had I been going really way in the back of the pack in the race, I don't think I would have finished. So I had that cushion. I had that. So that I always look at that and go, yeah, I just, that's things that happen out there. It's amazing, but you got to really take care of yourself. And
sure,
that's where your crew, the crew of a Badwater race such as that is endurance. Any Badwater runner will tell you, your crew members are the guardian angels, and without them, you're not going to finish the race, because they monitor you, they watch you, they make sure you're doing well, you're getting water, they're icing you down, and so extremely valuable people are your crew members. Highest respect for them.
Yeah, it's true that they do so much to keep you moving, and that is a job unto itself, equal to that of the runner. It's really a team effort when you get to the ground floor.
Yeah, it's its own endurance feat.
That's correct.
Yeah, I could speak to that. So we did a bit of research on you, John, and we found out you ran across the United States.
Yes, sir, I did. Yeah, and I gave up Badwater too. I would have, that was one year I told the race director I'm going to do this. But yeah, I did. Yes, sir. That was quite an event.
Yeah, I guess in a way, could you, tell us what that experience was like for you? The reasoning behind it. I'm just, again, it's another feat. And I think so many people like to pin the movie Forrest Gump onto runners, like, run, Forrest, run. And he ran across the country. But you actually did it. And
I did and I can look, if you were here, I could look in the eye and said, I ran every step of the way. I made sure of that, because when you're a cross-country transcontinental runner, sometimes there's been controversy. Well, did he run all the way, or did he get a ride? Did he, but no, I did every plus 200 extra miles because of road detours.
Wow.
But the story begins, I was 16 years old at Rosemead High School. At the time, that was the high school I was going to. And I told my track coach, I found this little paperback book. And I like to read a lot then. I was always reading something And I found this little book called The Bunyan Derby. And it was a fictional story, but yet it was based on a true story. Runners back in the 1930s would run from Santa Monica to the East Coast.
Wow.
Atlantic City or New York or, excuse me. And I read the story, and I may have skipped some pages. I'm not saying I was super literate, but I read most of the story and I go, this is really cool. And then I showed the book to my coach. I said, Coach, Alex, I would like to do this run. And he saw that look in my eye and he goes, well, not at 16. You got to wait till you're more seasoned and older and experienced. And he goes, that's a good goal. And he wasn't telling me that I shouldn't. He never said that, but he was going like, whoa, not at your age. So years later, I've already been involved with many, many ultras. I had over 100 plus ultras or more like under my belt. And I decided, well, it's time for me to do this run. And I did it. And I had a charity behind it. And so I ran from Santa Monica to Atlantic City.
Wow.
And I was self-contained most of the way. Once in a while, I would get, I was trying to get some major sponsors back then, and some of them fell through. We wanted to get a little camper van to run in, and I couldn't, like I said, we got close, but they for some reason they couldn't, for whatever reasons, they couldn't come up with a van, with a vehicle. So I decided, well, I have a baby jogger. I bought it at a thrift shop for $35. I fixed it up. Not major repairs. I just made a little bit more carpeting space for my gear. So I pushed my baby stroller, or ran with a baby jogger, the majority of the way across the United States. I was self-contained.
So there's no crew?
No. However, there was points where, because my run got so popular, at first it started off with the power of Facebook, which was just, I was getting familiar on how to use social media. And then people would say, I'd get a runner that would just say, hey, John, let's get you, I ran through some really tricky neighborhoods that weren't safe.
Sure.
Some areas. So we would put the baby jogger folded up, and then I could run and still run, but I didn't have to run with a baby jogger. And there were some really dangerous areas. And I'm very fortunate. I look back on it, and whether or not would I've gone through it and not been harmed, I don't know. But I've had situations with wild dogs, and I've gone through some really crazy neighborhoods, but I was never threatened. The Forrest Gump thing always would come up. Hey, you're because I was getting a lot of press, and people go, oh, you're that Forrest Gump guy running across America for kids. And I go, oh, thank you very much. But I never had any, now traffic wise, that's a different story. You run on Interstate 40 for a while, and you have to watch out for the traffic can get really scary.
Yeah.
And then you get back on Route 66, and then because Route 66 will break up and you have to run on the interstate for a while. And that part I didn't like, but I had no choice. And then sometimes you go through a construction zone and you have to detour. You can't push your cart. You have to go maybe another 10 miles to get back on Route 66. So there was deviation. It isn't just a straight shot across the United States. If there is construction, roads are being built, there are detours, and that adds up, that piles up to miles. But incredible experience, absolutely life-changing experience. I'm going through the Indian reservation, and Native Americans were very nice to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they gave me drinks. They said, you could sleep on our land. You're welcome to. And they were just amazing.
How many miles a day were you running?
Good question. Oh, the first couple of weeks, I was really nailing it. I was doing about 50 miles a week on the baby jogger. And while I'm fresh, I have strong legs, I'm just going to go, hey, let's see. But then I had a friend of mine text me, and he had run across America also. And he was warning me, he says, John, you're fresh now, but remember, you got to conserve your energy. especially when you get through Flagstaff and you're going through the mountains. And he says, you're going to notice, your arms are going to start hurting and shoulders. And so you're going to have to dial it down a little bit, which I did, and I'm getting tendonitis in my shoulders from pushing you're using different muscles when you're running with a baby cart. The physics are different, the balance, the weight of the cart, you have to keep everything balanced. And I was getting tendonitis really bad in my shoulders. I couldn't even brush my teeth in the morning. But it finally, once we got out of the mountain range, or I got out of the mountain range, and the pain started to lessen, and I was able to manage it, and it eventually went away. So you're using different muscle groups when you're pushing a cart. I admire the moms and even the dads that are running with their babies. I go, hey, that's pretty cool. But not across America. I'm not endorsing that. Don't run with your child that far.
Well, just paint the picture for us of you finishing that race, is the feeling and that sensation in that day.
Yeah. And then, here's some fun stories real quick on the Transcon. And, and I'm running for kids, and I'm running for a real good charity. It's called the Way to Happiness Foundation. You may have already seen it. And I was really honored to do something good. And then plus I was honoring my late brother, a Vietnam veteran. And it was on his birthday when I started, July 4th. So I had a lot of special meaning in this run, but also I was fulfilling a dream of mine. But, like I wanted to have a purpose. I said, I can't just run for John Radich. I got to have a cause, because there's so many good charities out there. And any ultra endurance athlete, there's so many good causes. If you're going to do something, you want to make it count and help somebody with it, at least for me. And many of my friends, many athletes do the same. They're absolutely incredible what they do. But I was in New Mexico, and this is a fun story. This is a good one. And this man in a pickup, he stops and he makes a donation to my foundation. And I said, hey, thank you. That was very nice. And he said, hey, let me take you up to the town, and I'll buy you, I'll treat you to dinner. I want to hear about your run. And he says, we'll throw you a baby jogger in my pickup. And I go, sir, that's great, but that's 10 miles that I have to come back, and I can't. I'm keeping the run very concise. I have to. I'm a purist. It has to be every step of the way. And he looked at me. He says, "Well, no one's going to know." And he goes, and I looked at him, and he goes, "Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, you'll know." Then you'll know, I'll know. And then he goes, "God will know too." And I go, "Okay, yes, sir. That's correct." So I passed on that. And then New Mexico, I had a highway patrolman, great guy. They would come and check on me once in a while. How you doing? They patrol the highway. They know what's going on. And he offered me milk. He said, hey, let me drive you to the Dairy Queen. He said, another 10 miles on the road. And I go, well, he says, we could fold up your car. My cruiser I got a big back seat. And I looked at him. I said, well, officer, that is very nice of you. I appreciate it. And I said, look, that's 10 miles. And then he said, well, I could bring you back. And I thought about it really quickly. And I have friends in law enforcement that are actually ultra runners. And I looked at it and I go, officer, it was Officer Bennett or Smith or something. And I go, well, we're having a sandwich. We're talking. And all of a sudden you get a radio dispatch. You get a call. There's an accident on the freeway and you have to go. And then he thought about it. He goes, oh, yeah, you're really thinking outside the box. Yeah, because then I have to go back and where you drop me off and retrace the miles. And so I thought that was a nice offer though, but I had to decline on that one.
Sorry, really quick though, just to get back to Chris's question, what was it like for the final day when you finished the run? You said would you end in Atlantic City?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay. This is a great story. You guys are so good, man. You're stirring up a lot of pleasant memories here.
Oh yeah.
Some wild ones too. Okay. The last day, oh my God, it was a long 4 months and 20 days. That's how long it took me.
Oh my God.
I wasn't going for a speed record, but it wasn't a speed record, but it was a good accomplishment. I was happy considering how I was approaching the run, the way I was running it with I was 10 miles within Atlantic City, and you could start to feel, you could taste the ocean air. You let's see, I ran through Camden, New Jersey, which is high crime rate. I never got threatened. The people there were very nice to me. I even got offered, one man had a barber shop. He said, "Hey, I'll give you a haircut. You want a free haircut?" I go, well, sir, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And so I got last 7 miles, you start getting into Atlantic City. Here comes this woman. She's all dressed up. She's in high heels. And I'm not running super fast, but I'm running, and I'm by my crew members now. I have a crew team because they're with me to do the pictures and the press and all that. They're about 3 miles ahead of me, so I'm catching up to them. She starts walking and jogging in high heels, and she goes, "Hey, I could give you how are you today?" And I go, "Well, ma'am, I'm running across the United States. I'm so happy to be doing this. I'm running for a charity." And I was just being real polite to her, but she goes, "Well, hey, I can give you a good time today. My rates are real inexpensive." And I'm going, I swear to you, true story. So help me, true story. And I'm going, "Ma'am, I'm so tired right now. I got to get to the finish." And he says, "Well," and she got alongside me for maybe a minute, half. And I'm going, "My God, this lady's really, she's a salesperson. She wants business."
Uh-huh.
And I just go, "Ma'am, I have to go. Thank you very much. Be safe. God bless you.
Right.
Thank you." And I pulled out. But she was offering me, she was a hooker or prostitute or whatever you want to say. But I did not take her up on that offer. Okay, that's a true story. Now, getting near the end.
I love it.
Yeah, true story. That's so funny. Yeah. And then the last end of it, Atlantic City, the boardwalk was closed due to construction. So my crew member, one of my photographers on the team, really nice lady, she said, "Hey, John Radich is running across America. Can we have no other exit. Can we run through the casino out the back door and he wants to put his feet in the Atlantic?" And the manager, what I understand, he was a very nice man. Even though it was full of cigarette smoke, people are gambling, having fun. He says, "Yeah, bring him on in, and we're going to announce him. I'm going to announce him when he comes in." And here I am. They open the doors, and I'm running. People are gambling, smoking cigarettes, or drinking. I don't know, whatever. It's thick with smoke, and I'm running through this casino, long hallway for a casino, and people are stopping with a cigarette in their mouth, clapping, "Hey, way to go, Forrest," or "Way to go. I'm glad I'm not. You got to come in and we'll buy you a beer after you finish, and we'll treat you to a beer," or whatever. So we ran out the door, and that was a highlight, one of the highlights of the finish.
Unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And then we get down the stairs, and there's the Atlantic Ocean. And it's not official. If you're a transcontinental runner, you got to put your feet, like I did in Santa Monica. You put your feet in the Pacific there, right by the pier. And then you go to the Atlantic Ocean and you put your feet, and that caps it off. And that's another true story. You never forget that.
That's beautiful.
And yes, they did. I did have a dinner and a beer, and it was fun. And they were. I couldn't tolerate the cigarette smoke too much, but I was so ecstatic with the. I said, "What the hey?" And we even had a little. They gave us a buffet dinner. They said, "Hey, you guys, here, it's on us. Have a dinner. You earned it." And so
that's amazing.
That's a great story. That's a great. Yeah, it's a great story.
Incredible.
And people and you see the good. Like I said, nothing is perfect in running. You're going to encounter. There were some strange things that I luckily stayed away from. And there were some bad neighborhoods that we detoured. But you see the goodness of people when you're running across the country or biking or walking. You see America like it's unbelievable. And you meet the most interesting people, the truck drivers one truck, he pulled over and he gives me a $5 bill. And this is outside of Kingman, Arizona on near Route 66. He gives me a $5 bill. And he says, "I heard about your run on TV or something." And I go, "Oh, well, thank you very much." he says, you're doing something good for children. Here's a donation, but I want this money for you. Buy yourself, it's not a lot of money, but get yourself a Gatorade or a drink. And then he gives me his lunch. He gives me some bread and a sandwich and an apple and an orange. He wanted to make sure I was food. So
wow,
unbelievable.
That's so cool.
It was just the goodness. The goodness of people. One time I got lost. I took a wrong turn and I was actually on the Native American. I'm still on the land that on the reservation, and somehow it was kind of confusing for me to get back on Route 66 and start heading towards Albuquerque. And the little kids were selling. The Native American children were selling snow cones, and of course I bought one, gave them a good little donation towards their business. And then mother gave me directions on how to get out. She draws everything out. I still have the map. And she was here's a tree here. She was really good with landmarks. And this is how you get back on your route. And she was dead on accurate. And I still had that little map. So it's amazing. It changed my life forever. You guys are really rekindling some good memories here. I appreciate your call, your questions.
No, we appreciate you doing this and taking the time to chat with us. We only have a couple more questions too. So one question related to that run is, what was your recovery like for that? And what tips do you have for people that are recovering from their own long runs? Obviously, most of us aren't running across the country, but when we go for longer training runs or, after marathons, like what advice would you give to people like us?
Oh yeah. Well, the main thing is my rule of thumb is, and most runners will say, you listen to your body. Okay. Let's say you ran a marathon, you ran a 10K. Well, give yourself some rest. Take 2-3 days off, recover, stretch, maybe cross train a little bit, but let your body recover, because your body's been through a lot. So that's very important that you do recovery. And when I ran across America, it was funny. I got back. I took the plane back to Ontario, California airport, and I flew. This is another fun story. I was so tired on the plane. I just slept, and but I think I took maybe 2-3 weeks off from running. Maybe I went to the gym maybe, but I didn't do anything hard. I wanted to really let my body recuperate.
Sure.
Your legs, your joints, your knees, your ankles, everything. Because you've been, so it was just like a good recovery time. So whatever your endurance sport is, it's good to rest and take a break and then start your training, you're running again. But if you overtrain, you set what I want to caution people, especially beginners, don't go extremely too hard, because you could set yourself up for injuries and you set yourself back. So just listen to your body and gradually build up your mileage, your training, and your body gets stronger, and then it becomes a great hopefully a lifelong sport for everybody, as long as you can run or walk. Speaking
to injury, like, I'm sure you've had to deal with injuries and gotten through them.
Oh yeah.
What would you say to a runner who is injured now or is trying to get through an injury, and what's the best way to deal with that? What
I would tell him or her,
sure,
if you're injured. Oh yeah, well, of course. I've been through that. I've had some things just recently. Just be patient with yourself. I mean, of course, hopefully you've received medical care from a professional doctor or orthopedics, whatever the injury is. But listen to your doctor, your physical therapist, absolutely. And it's not the end of the world. I know when I got hurt when I was a young runner, I injured myself. I fell and hurt my knee and ankle, and I thought my life was over. And a runner looked at me and he goes, "I've been through this, John. You're going to get through it. You have a whole lifetime of running, and this makes you stronger." But the most important thing is be patient and and you're going to get through it, and follow again, I'm cautious with this. What I say is, depending on what the injury is, but follow your medical, what the doctor tells you to do, or your physical therapist. But just keep in mind that, you will get through it, and you become stronger. And one thing, every time I've been hurt, I've appreciated running more. I go, my God, how blessed we are to be able to do this sport. It's just like an epiphany. You just go, thank you, God. Thank you, the universe or the nature, for giving us this ability to run. It's a gift. So that's how I look at it. You'll come back, but be patient. And again, I'm not to sound, but I'm real cautious with this. I always tell somebody, I don't give, runners, we like to give, sometimes we give our own
right
medical advice. Sometimes it's natural, but that's fine. But always follow what your doctor says. Always, because the physical therapists, those guys know, and they're smart. And if you got a serious injury, just follow their instructions, and hopefully you'll be back on the road running, and most likely you will be.
So you've accomplished so much in running, and I was wondering if you have any advice on how to maintain a long kind of longevity in running and a long running career.
Good question. Some of it has to do with genetics, because I know runners my age or even older I know a runner in his 80s now, and he doesn't run anymore, but he's a hell of a walker. Man, that guy can walk. and I know some women, men and women, I'm including everybody here, not being,
of course,
sexist or anything like that. So absolutely not. That's not my nature. But genetics is one major component. But also I believe in taking care of yourself, diet, a good diet, resting, having a good mental, positive outlook on life, being good to yourself, being kind, being a good person, getting out there and helping others and giving back. That's one of my little secrets. Is it's not all about me, but I love my sport. I'm grateful, but there's a balance. Your diet, how you take care of yourself, what you eat, and surround yourself with good people, and train and do the work. You do have to be disciplined. That's part of the sport. And your body's your temple, and comes with that is being responsible towards your body. It's taking responsibility. If you want to be a long distance runner or a runner and you want to go a long time, there are some sacrifices you have to make. You have to really put in the effort on, should I be eating this, or is this too late, or when do I rest? And so there's a lot of things involved, but that comes with the territory of being a long distance runner. So those are the things that I've followed, I've learned from other runners. I've discovered for myself things about that, but other from fellow runners that have given me some golden advice. And to this day, I still hold on to it.
That sounds like a good way to live life.
Yeah, well, running, if you talk to runners, and they're some of the most amazing people, and it's like it's a lifestyle. It is. It's quite amazing.
Well, John, we want to thank you so much for being on the show today. You have so many amazing stories, and it's just also so great to talk to somebody who's been doing this for so long and seen the evolution of what we love to do. We usually end each episode of the podcast with this question, and I'd love to get your take on it. There's often the talk of what a runner's high is, and I would love to ask what your own personal runner's high is.
Wow, what a great question. Boy, you guys are nailing it. This is really making me think here. It's a great question. Okay, that does come up. A runner's high is when you're totally, okay, this is only my concept of it, and I don't speak for every other ultra runner, cyclist, hiker, triathlete. For me, it's like it's called being in the zone. You may have heard of football players, you've heard of that term. You're in the zone, yeah. You're in that hot. that for me, it's like I'm in total, okay, first of all, I'm in real good sync with my body, my mind, my spirit. I'm like, hey, I'm in alignment now. Everything is there. I'm extroverted. I'm not looking inward. I'm looking ahead. I'm seeing the environment. I'm not worried about, oh, my toe hurts, or my ankle, or I got a little blister, or whatever. You're just totally extroverted, and you're running, and you're in communication with the environment and yourself, but you're not looking so much deep, but you're just, my definition, and I can't speak for all the runners, but you're in a zone. Let me put it this way. You're running on all, no pun intended, you're running on all 8 cylinders. Everything is just humming along. That is the high. But what makes it special is you overcame the low points. You've had cramps. You started to mentally wear out, or you were getting tired, or you didn't feel like you can finish, all these other things. Sometimes life comes at you. Things, life is challenging. You might have things going on at home. There's a lot of things that go on, but you set aside that for that moment, and you blow through it. And then that's the high. That's the zone. That's my definition. And you're golden. You're golden.
That was great, John. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's given us so much inspiration, and we love hearing your stories.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, John, thank you.
And I really appreciate your time, and I hope we meet again.
We definitely will. Yeah, we feel just so lucky that we ran into you that day.
Oh, well, thank you.
At the expo.
Well, thank you. I'm fortunate I bumped into you guys, and I hope you interview more people and get there's a lot of great athletes out there and runners, and I look forward to hearing your podcast.
Absolutely. And maybe we'll get a run in one day.
Hey, that sounds good.
All right, John, take care. Thanks again.
Okay. You have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.